Hello, and welcome to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the injury market's top program for doctors, lawyers, and insurers who want to gain greater insight on how to improve patient recovery results and deliver better services in the U.S. injury market. Please welcome your host, Dr. Jeffrey Allen Kronk.
Hey, welcome to Doctors to today's program. Today, what I want to talk about is pandemic, injury, and common sense. So today we're in a COVID-19 pandemic, which makes very little sense. But it makes very little sense that spinal ligament injuries would be the number one cause of pain and disability until we start to roll back sort of the layers in the onion to actually take a really good look at some things. In injury work, the majority of patients go when they're injured to a medical provider, and anybody can actually pull up research as to the inadequacy of medical education to general spinal injuries or any other musculoskeletal type injury. I mean, anybody can pull it up and see that there's vast problems with that. Now, those vast problems have led medical providers who do not understand the underlying pathology of most injuries. They don't understand the underlying cause. And because most patients go to those providers, it's led to the largest epidemic of chronic pain in the history of our country. Now, I've said before in other podcasts, the biggest reason for that is because the medical doctors do not know. And it's not that they don't know. They're highly trained, they're highly educated, they're very smart people. They're just not trained in musculoskeletal medicine. Anybody wants to do a Google search and see the inadequacies in medical education on musculoskeletal conditions, it's very, very obvious. Now, it's also obvious in the solutions that come out. What occurs? The biggest solution that medicine comes out with is drugs. And medicine doesn't really come up with the drugs. The drugs are came up with by the pharmaceutical industry itself, which is a whole nother industry that relies on the medical industry in order to get its drugs out. So, if we take a look here, and we just look at opioid usage, and I'm gonna make some comparisons here. If we look at opioid usage, if I go to Therapeutic Opioids, a 10-year perspective on complexities and complications of escalating use, abuse, and non-medical use of opioids, published in the National Library of Medicine, it says that the therapeutic opioid use and abuse coupled with non-medical use of other psychotherapeutic drugs, as psychotherapeutic drugs, by the way, are drugs that are like pain relievers, tranquilizers, stimulants, sedatives. Use of these drugs has shown an explosive growth in recent years and has been the topic of great concern and controversy. Americans, constituting only 4.6% of the world's population, have been consuming 80% of the global opioid supply and 99% of the global hydrocodone supply, as well as 2/3 of the world's illegal drugs. Now, I don't think it takes much to make the jump from the fact that when you have legal drugs being so openly put into the system, and why? What's the relationship between injury and this? Is because that is medicine's prescription. That's its treatment for injuries, and all the research shows that these things cause a reduction in healing. Now, the other thing that they cause, oddly enough, is a reduction in your immune system. Drugs, foreign substances in your immune system in your body are going to cause a reduction in immunity. Now, we take this current pandemic and we say, hey, injuries in the United States of America and chronic pain in the United States of America are off the charts because the majority is run by medicine. Now, if we take a look at the pandemic is being run by medicine. But what does medicine really do? And I am not busting against medicine. I want medicine to be really, really successful. I want medicine to rid the population in the United States and rid the population of the world of diseases. Get rid of them. Have successful treatments. Have great prevention strategies so we don't need doctors. That's the overall goal, should be the overall goal in healthcare. But it doesn't seem to be that way. So if we take a look at the number of medical errors, and again, medicine right now is running our pandemic. We listen to medical experts and we listen to, they don't really know. We need more research. We need to be scientific in our approach. All these trigger words, but what we don't hear is that we are highly successful with these conditions and it's under control. Right? So if we take a look at medicine right now, and anybody, again, can pull this up, recent studies of medical errors have estimated errors may account for as many as 251,000 deaths annually. These are medical errors. If we look back at the old idea, and if we do a little bit of research, it's not hard to find that chiropractic adjustments and chiropractic care, anytime it's been tested, it's tested as one of the most effective, cost-effective means of handling musculoskeletal conditions. Now, it's also very, very safe. So when I say injury pandemic, and my talk on this podcast, it may seem a little bit all over the place, but it's really not. Anytime that I have a group of injury doctors called Smart Injury Doctors, and we train to be the best injury doctors in the market today of the most common reason for chronic pain, which is neck and back injuries. So primarily spine injury doctors. Now, the interesting thing about adjusting a spine for injury is that it's highly successful. It's highly successful for reduction of ligament injuries, spinal instability, and all the symptoms that occur as a result of. Now, one of the other things that it does, though, is it's been shown chiropractic adjustments and patients under chiropractic care have shown dramatic increases in their immune function. So let's say you're treating an injured patient and we're in this COVID-19 thing, or it's even a non-injured patient. Patients that receive chiropractic care in the general population have been shown with the research to have much higher immunity and immune response. As a matter of fact, there was a very significant study performed by Dr. Ronald Pirro, PhD, Chief Cancer Prevention Research at New York's Prevention Medicine Institute and Professor of Medicine at New York University. It showed the positive effect that chiropractic care can have on the immune system and general health. Dr. Pirro measured the immune systems of people under chiropractic care as compared with those in the general population and those with cancer and other serious diseases. In his initial 3-year study was of 107 individuals who've been under chiropractic care for 5 years or more. The chiropractic care patients were found to have a 200% greater immune competence than those people who had not received chiropractic care, and they had a 500 or 400% greater immune competence than those people with cancer or other serious diseases. The immune system superiority of those under chiropractic care did not appear to diminish with age, Pirro stated. When applied to, this is what he stated, when applied in a clinical framework, I've never seen a group other than this chiropractic group to experience the 200% increase over normal patients. This is why it is so dramatically important. We have never seen such a positive improvement in a group, right? So there are many, many studies that show that chiropractic care and spinal adjustments have a profound effect on raising a person's immunity. Now, there's nothing new about that. People who choose to treat with chiropractors over medical doctors, because of their lifestyle, generally they're less drug-oriented patients, which is going to immediately improve their immune systems. So one of the things that was really interesting, and anybody can actually Google this, is the results of the chiropractic during the flu pandemic of 1918. Remember, there's a lot of deaths with that flu pandemic in 1918. And statistics show that in the state of Iowa, medical doctors treated 93,590 patients with 616 deaths, or a loss of one patient out of every 15. In that same state, excluding Davenport, Iowa, the home of chiropractic at that time, 4,735 patients were treated by chiropractors with a loss of only 6 cases, or a loss of 1 patient out of 789. Now, one could say, hey, this was because the medical doctors were seeing the more significant patients. But in that same study, they showed chiropractors in Oklahoma treated 3,400 cases of influenza with only 7 deaths. But the best part of it was that in Oklahoma, there's a clear record showing that the chiropractors were called in 233 cases where medical doctors had cared for the patients and finally gave up and said they were lost. The chiropractors saved all but 25 of those 233. So, doctors, when you're out there right now going through this pandemic, realize that the services that you're providing are helping to improve the immune quality of the patients that you're performing your treatments on. And obviously, I'm an injury doctor, so anybody who's undergoing injury care should stay on care. 1, because you're seriously going to reduce the risk of long-term chronic pain, and 2, you're seriously improving the immune quality of the patient that you're working on. These are just something that I thought would be interesting on today's program to take a look at. Obviously, again, this is not Dr. Kronk. This is not any doctor. Anybody can actually Google search, does a spinal adjustment, most commonly delivered by a chiropractor, does it deliver immune improvement? And you're going to see research that suggests that it does. You're going to see research that also suggests just exactly the facts that I just stated. So like injury work and like pandemic work, we need to turn over and be controlled by those who can get results, not by those who spend the most money or right now in the United States of America, we spend more money than any industrialized nation in the world. But yet our results, if we take a look at our results are horrible. I mean, according to the 2019 Bloomberg Healthiest Country Index, the U.S. ranked 35th out of 169 countries. Right? Now, we spend the most. We also, if we want to look at statistics, and we want to look at statistics like, hey, how much, where is the United States ranked for taking depression medication? It ranks number 1 in the world. So our medical specialists are not necessarily leading us down the right paths. And this has to be communicated about. You have to be willing to stand up and talk about it, even though they're not the most comfortable topics to talk about, because we spend 20% of our gross national product on healthcare services. It's just very questionable. I know it's very questionable in the injury market. I mean, low back pain, if you take a look at medicine, the second most common reason for any medical visit is low back pain. And we know how bad, general medicine is with correcting low back problems. It's not very good at all. So that's all I wanted to talk about on this podcast. I have a program called Smart Injury Doctors, and these doctors are becoming some of the best doctors in the country on injury work. But today I wanted to just talk about and wrap in the conversation about immunity with spinal adjusting and the COVID pandemic, and kind of wrap it into a topic that I think you'll understand. Very important for doctors today of chiropractic to be working, and not only be working, but to be very, very busy. Doctors, like all of my podcasts, if you have anything that you want to say, put the comments down below. I pay attention to them, and it helps me to understand what to talk about in other segments. Doctors, I thank you very much for taking your time to listen to this podcast today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the #1 audio production show for professionals in the U.S. injury market that want to deliver better injury services to the patients, clients, or insureds they serve. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review and don't forget to join us on our next program.